Hey guys, Happy New Year's. I wanted to talk about why I shaved my head. So, in my previous video, I talked about my 5 day silent retreat, and I had so much to talk about that I forgot to talk about the fact that on day 2 or 3, I decided to shave my head. So, this is the first time seeing my scalp in my entire life. I was actually born with a full head of hair, and I never stopped having a full head of hair. So, it felt like a big deal, you know. It was a big change, and I got pretty lucky actually because I was in the middle of a silent retreat, very bored, nothing happening, everything was moving very very slowly. But this gave me this like big event, and leading up to it, there was so much adrenaline, and I had to hype myself up and get myself energized. And I walked to the bathroom multiple times, and I had the razor going, but I couldn't get it up to my head, and I would put it down and pace around the house, and it was this whole ordeal. And then it's funny because when I was done, it was like there was an entire day left, and there was just nothing happening. It was like very anticlimactic. But there's a couple things I want to talk about. So one is this people pleasing thing. So I had the desire to buzz my head, and this was a repeating desire in my mind for like, I want to say over 3 months. Like, oh, I want to buzz my head. I wonder what it would be like to buzz my head. And also at the same time, just feeling really annoyed by my hair and all the upkeep and having to make it look good, and for filming content, wanting to like get all the stray pieces down and putting product in it in the morning, or else it was really puffy. Just all this maintenance that I didn't want to deal with, and also just this buzzing curiosity and excitement about what it would be like to shave my head. What does this shape of my head look like? What would it feel like to run my hands over my head like this? And I have to tell you, it's one of the best parts. But every time this desire would really bubble to the surface, almost to the point of action, instead of doing it, the first thing I would do is I would turn to someone else and ask them what they thought. And most people's gut reaction when it comes to big change is don't do it. So people would be like, don't do it, I love your hair. Or don't do it, you're going to regret that. Or something like that. A lot of people really liked my hair. I would get compliments on my hair all the time. So I had all these attachments to my hair. And then there's just being a man in this society where there's this narrative that balding is bad. Look, I hate to tell you guys, one of my mentors told me a phrase that was just like this. I hate to tell you guys, but we're all turning to corpses no matter what. This body is continually decaying into a corpse, and one day it's going to be a corpse. It doesn't matter how full of a head of hair you have. It doesn't matter what products you put in your hair. It doesn't matter if you have a hair transplant. You can hide it as best you can, but this body is becoming a corpse, okay? And in this society, there's this strong, strong narrative that it's better to be young. It's better to have a full head of hair, especially for guys. It's bad and ugly to bald. So this is a powerful narrative that has a grip on so many men. There's nothing inherently painful about balding at all. But what is painful is when you're starting to bald and you have all these narratives from the society in your head, and you don't want to bald, and you think you're becoming uglier, and you think you're aging, and that's a bad thing, and that it's going to have these consequences. People aren't going to think you're as attractive. That's painful, being attached to those narratives and going through a natural body evolution while being attached to those baseless narratives, that's painful. There's certainly nothing physically painful about balding itself. And I see so many men suffering with this. Not only do they suffer as they're balding, and they are so attached to their hair that they're suffering because their hair is falling out, and they're attached to these narratives, so it's causing them mental anguish. Men are also suffering before they start balding because of paranoia that they're going to start balding. And more men are, spending their money buying products, doing hair transplants, like getting surgery, taking all this time out of their lives going through a medical procedure in order to try to stop themselves from going through a natural process. There's a madness happening. So I also had the desire to, even though I wasn't really balding, and I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. Now that I can actually fully see my hairline, pretty impressive, I wanted to make that powerful move to be like, I'm gonna make myself bald even though I have to be. Like, I'm gonna decide for myself. I'm gonna challenge this narrative in the face for myself, for no one else. I don't want to be dreading this for years and years and having it be a drain on energy. How about I just see what it's like? And I gotta say, I kind of like it. I have to point out that I'm a hypocrite. I'm a huge hypocrite because I've been paid to work as a paid actor on advertisements where I was promoting hair loss products in those advertisements. So for the sake of full disclosure, I had to disclose that. I've been paid to participate as a paid actor in these promotions. There's more we could unpack there, but I don't think that's the point. But it is another thing that made me more attached to my hair and made it more difficult to let go of, because there's actually some money attached to my hair for me. My looks, my particular look made me suitable to promote a particular product for a particular niche of businesses, which is fascinating. So these narratives about balding, this people-pleasing tendency to, I'm carrying other people's positive opinions about my hair, this business connection with my hair, my own just attachment to how I look and my perceived attractiveness. All of these things made it very, very difficult to actually go through with my desire and buzz my head. And I procrastinated it for months. I just couldn't do it. But then in the belly of this silent retreat, with no one's opinions around, I could shave my head and nobody would see it for several days. So it was really just for me, and I decided to do it. And like I said, I really had to hype myself up and energize myself. But ultimately, when the razor finally cut through my hair, and I have to say, with all those strong attachments I had to my hair, I almost expected the razor to jam and fall out of my hand and it just wouldn't work. But when I finally swiped it and made cut a chunk out of my hair and there was no going back, I was like, wow, it cut through my hair like lukewarm butter, it just sliced right off. And then there was no going back. And I have to say, there's something intoxicating about making your own decision, especially when it's something bold, out of the ordinary, a big change, a little bit rebellious, anything like that. When you finally change the pattern, and instead of looking to someone else for permission and validation, and instead you just make that decision from your own being, it's intrinsically a very powerful thing to do, and it feels intoxicating, frankly. so I can't recommend it enough. But, right, there was all this hype and all this build up, and then I finally did it. And then halfway through, I'm like, it's already, the big deal of it has already worn off. And instead I'm wondering like, okay, how the heck do I get the back of my head? And then the razor dies and I'm like, dang, I should have probably thought this through. So I shifted from like all this hype to just like logistics, which was funny. But I finished it off very, very satisfied that I did it. When I finally exited the silent retreat, that's when there was this other wave of like my friends and family kind of having their reactions to it, which was fun, honestly. It was really fun and empowering to own a decision like this and to not be shy about it and to go outside with my bald head and let everybody see me and post right on Instagram and show everybody. There was something very empowering about that, and to see the reactions coming in, you know. I'm still kind of in this transition out of the silent retreat, so I'm still like getting used to what it's like to have the world coming in and people's responses and opinions about me coming in. But we could bring it to a whole new layer of depth, because they're not really talking about me. They're just seeing this body with a different head of hair. But anyways, the whole thing has been really fun. And I think one of the reasons that I wanted to tell this story, first of all, it was an important part of my silent retreat that I forgot to mention in the previous video. But also just because of the suffering that I see with men in particular who are attached to their hair, which is such a it's a needless way to suffer, because it's literally a natural process. It's an inevitable process for 99.9% of men at a certain age to start balding, maybe go completely bald, more or less. And it's so foolish to be attached to these narratives that anything about a perfectly natural process could mean anything less about our inherent beauty. So what I really want to say is balding is beautiful, aging is beautiful, own these processes, and if you're in a similar boat as I was and full head of hair or losing your hair or balding, wherever you're at, if this attachment to your hair in particular is so strong that it's causing you suffering, consider liberating yourself. Just take a razor, cut it all off, just own it, embrace it, walk right outside, walk right through that discomfort, show people, let them have their reaction. Realize it's just them reacting to change. You know, people are going to react. When you've had a full head of hair your whole life and suddenly you're bald, people are going to have a reaction. It's like a visceral thing. It's natural. And that's totally okay. Just sit there in your power and own that, and chances are you're going to inspire other people who are struggling with the same thing. So that's why I shaved my head during my silent retreat. I hope you found this interesting, and I'll see you next time.